Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Women Who Rock Investigate, an affiliate of Women Who Rock with Success. We report case studies in the areas of policy and government, medical malpractices, health pandemics, biotech and fracking, global climate change, prison, and police reform, and more. Our topics are covered around the latest breaking news reports in the U.S. and around the globe. We can be heard on Spotify, Google Play, Google Podcast, TuneIn, iTunes, Podbean, Airtime Pro, and SAM Broadcasting radio stations, and more. Our handpicked experts on the show provide credible information from their fields of experience. Join us on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time as we discover the latest in news reports. Now join us live in the studio with our show host, Mrs. Diane Winbush.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second half of the show. This is Women Who Rock Investigates. And, of course, this is your show host, Ms. Diane Winbush. And so we thank everyone for tuning in with us on the program on today. So what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a different way of transferring money. It's a different way of saving, a different way of investing. And so we're going to learn a little bit about it. Sometimes as Americans, when we first begin to start out with something, especially when it's talking about cash and money, we kind of, stray away from it. We don't understand it, or it's a hoax or what have you. So that's the purpose of this investigation on today, is to be able to share with our audiences about Bitcoin, what it is, what it means, and how we can be able to invest and prosper off of this great way of money and transfer. So to be able to help us to understand a little bit about it, we welcome to the show this morning, and she's the founder of Bitwave, CEO Amy Kalnoky, if I'm pronouncing that right. And then we also have another Bitcoin expert, and she's also has expertise in screenwriting as well, and she is none other than Fairlane Raimundo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so last and not least, we have a expert and founder of cryptocurrency, and she is none other than Yana Afanzieva. So everybody, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Thank
Dan.
you so much for having me. Yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with Amy, and so we're going to let each one talk about a little bit about them and how they got started into the Bitcoin industry. So we'll start with Amy. Tell us a little bit about you and what compelled you to be able to get into Bitcoin financing.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm Amy Kalnoky, co-founder and chief operating officer of a company called Bitwave. We were founded back in 2018, and since the beginning, our vision has been to help enable digital assets for enterprises. And my background before this was in enterprise software. And when I first learned about Bitcoin and about digital assets in general, I mean, oh my gosh, I just was blown away. The thought of easier cross-border payments, just the excitement around the industry when I first got into it, because I had been kind of a personal fan of it before I left my job to found the company and start doing it professionally in 2018. I was just excited by all the possibilities to really revolutionize the financial systems. And so I set out to bring my experience in enterprise software and build a tool, a software platform that businesses would be able to use to do all of the tough challenges that they face around bookkeeping, accounting, tax tracking, treasury management, all the things in operations or an accounting team at a big company would need to be able to properly transact and manage company-owned digital assets. Because it's not the same as, just a U.S. dollar treasury or a Forex account or trading stocks and bonds. Crypto is its whole unique thing, and it presents some challenges, and I was excited by those and felt that there was space in the industry to build a tool to really help people confidently be able to keep record and transact in digital assets.
Okay, perfect. So, Yana, if you're on the line, can you be able to share us a little bit about you and why cryptocurrency was important to you?
Hi, Dan, and thank you, everybody, for having me here. So I'm Yana Afanasieva. I'm based in Switzerland, and my journey to the world of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin started actually from, having worked at Amazon and PayPal, where, people transact digitally, make purchases digitally. So this is how I kind of started, realizing that you don't need to rely on physical cash or traditional methods of payment to send money or pay and be paid. And in 2016, I have started my own consultancy company that was helping cryptocurrency operators, mostly in Europe, but also in Singapore, to get regulated. Because essentially, if you want to provide any kind of service where you handle other people's funds, you need certain permissions, audits, regulatory approvals, you need partnerships, and crypto operators back then were mostly started by techies who didn't necessarily read the laws, and I was kind of, building the bridge for them to make sure that they can do what they wanted to do to reach more people and create like a safer environment to do that. And obviously, the excitement about this area for me is ability to remove friction, ability to remove reliance on counterparties, because if you think about it, your bank doesn't work on Sunday, so you cannot do anything on Sunday if you want to send funds, or your bank doesn't want you to send money to a certain country, or you have to operate in a certain language, or they have certain limits, or they don't want you at all, or you have to have some minimal income to become a customer of this bank. And cryptocurrency financing operations and everything around that is a lot more democratized and more accessible. That's why I feel that this world is super exciting and super important.
Okay, perfect. Fairlane?
Hi, thank you, Diane, for having me here in Women Who Rock. Mm-hmm. I started my start with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin specifically was a little bit more conventional than the others. I started out thinking it was a scam. I was at that time I still am working for a precious metal company, for a precious metal investment company. And the owner of the company told me that he wanted to put up a cryptocurrency exchange platform. And I thought, he's such a good guy. Why would he want to scam people? And so that was actually when I started. I had to start studying cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And one of the things that really attracted me to Bitcoin is the fact that it is out there to solve the number one problem that is sort of holding everybody hostage, and that is inflation. So fast forward 2 years, we now have My Digital Money. It's on the crypto exchange platform, and as far as I know, we're the only exchange platform that offers both crypto IRA. So if you want some tax advantages, like not paying your capital gains on crypto investments, you can open a crypto IRA with My Digital Money. We also offer cash trading. And we're so very, very proud of our US-based phone support. So unlike other companies, you know how hard it is to get people on the phone. But with My Digital Money, we actually encourage people to call us when they have any questions about their crypto investments.
Okay, perfect. So this question is going back. We're going to go back around the table, and this question is going to be for Amy. And so the purpose of the reason why I decided to be able to open up like a case study on Bitcoin was because a lot of people felt that it was a fraud. And then I thought about it. It just hit me about 2 weeks ago when I decided to do a case study. I said, now, that would be something that the banks would try to put out there because it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them in a lot of ways because we see Chase is removing or has removed their overdraft fee funding, if I'm not mistaken, if I heard that right, on CNN News, where Chase Bank have, removed some of the fees, and I'm pretty sure that Bitcoin is making a run for a lot of things. So help us a little bit, Amy, and help the audience, all of us, to be able to understand why do the consumer feel that it's fraudulent?
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know how it got such a bad reputation from the beginning. Perhaps it is because people really, initially Bitcoin were excited about things like the fact that there was no government involvement in it, that it was a worldwide currency, not tied to any nation. And that's, maybe scared a few people because that meant there was no oversight. It was just to the community to really develop, and people did come up with tools like my company that helps people track taxes, do their accounting, and it's just I'm one of many of the kind of infrastructure layer that has built up around helping people be compliant. I mean, no one would use a software for accounting and tax tracking if they weren't planning on paying their taxes on it. But I think initially people were scared that because there was no government oversight, that it would just it would just be the Wild West. And I think that as the industry, that was the fear. And I think, they were like, well, if there's no one watching the house, like people are just going to start running a bunch of scams. And, obviously there is hacking and there have been some scams in the industry. And I'm actually glad to see like Biden's executive order coming out and more regulatory clarity, because I really do feel that most people want to follow the rules. They want to, have guidance for the government on how to transact in digital assets in a compliant way. And the more kind of clarity people can get about, what we should be doing in this space and how we can work not only to revolutionize the financial system, but also within the current guidelines of the existing financial system, I think it's a benefit to everyone and will help put any sort of fears that it's a scam to rest. I also think that people maybe just don't really understand why digital assets have value or why people think they have value. And if you think about the U.S. dollar right now, once we went off the gold standard, really the U.S. dollar has value because we all agree that it does, because, we have the Federal Reserve and we have policies and we have the great economy of the U.S. And so people think the dollar has value, but it's not actually tied to any physical thing anymore. And Bitcoin, which is just one of many. I mean, there are literally hundreds and thousands of different tokens and digital assets at this point. But Bitcoin, kind of the main original granddaddy of them all, has value. I think people think it might be a scam because they don't understand the reasons why people feel it has value. Bitcoin, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. That's how many will ever be mined. So there's a cap on the supply. And so if you kind of apply the laws of supply and demand to it, so as Bitcoin becomes more popular, as it becomes more used, and as additional, coins are mined, eventually it's going to end, and there's going to be more demand for it than there is supply. And so the price of Bitcoin continues to go up. And additionally, to mine Bitcoin, people invest actual resources into the mining of it, electricity, for one, you're purchasing mining equipment. And so people exchange things that have real value for Bitcoin, and it helps provide a good floor for the value and the price. So once I think people understand kind of a little bit more about digital assets, I don't think they think they're a scam anymore.
Absolutely, because it's an awesome platform, launch pad, I guess I would say, for investors. And I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of individuals, millionaires, that have invested their stocks and ROIs into Bitcoin. And so that's the purpose of the case study on the day, is to be able to put the people's mind at ease so they can be able to understand a little bit. I'm thinking about kind of, getting into it a little bit as well. So that's the reason why we're all here. So this
and one thing I'd add, Diane.
Go ahead, Amy.
Can I just add one thing? I would say with digital assets, I would apply the same rules and kind of rule of thumb that you do to any sort of retirement investing. Like, take a long-term view. I'm not a day trader. I don't watch the numbers every day. Is it going up? Is it going down? I look at it as the same as with my retirement account. Have a well-balanced portfolio. Take a long-term view. Is the market going to be more in 5, 10, 15 years? Same with stocks. Like, I don't watch my stocks every day. I just look over the course of a long period of time and have a balanced portfolio and apply the same general investing mindset that I do to anything else, not risk any more than I can afford. Those kind of rules still apply to digital assets. It's just another class of investment.
Right. Absolutely, I agree. So this question, thank you so much for that response, Amy. This question is for Fairlane. So yes, J.P. Morgan Chase has reduced their bank overdrafting fees. So, and of course, as Amy had stated, it's becoming more popular, and that's how I was aware that it was not a scam, because now you have bankers that are reducing their own banking fees in order to remain in competition. So tell us a little bit about the benefits of Bitcoin versus traditional banking, such as going to the bank. You got your money orders, you're getting that, and then you have your CDs, and then you have other banks that are also offering incentives and rewards to their debit cards and things. So tell us a little bit about the benefits versus traditional banking.
I just had read a story during the height of it's still at the height of the Ukraine-Russia crisis, and I read something, a story on Reddit and Twitter, and the guy said that his friend in Ukraine asked for help because he wanted to get out of Ukraine, but he didn't have any access to his cash because banks were not open, and his friend actually sent him Bitcoin. And the next day, he was out of Ukraine. And so that is a clear testament on the power of Bitcoin. I can't verify whether the story is true, but it is a testament. It is an example of the power of Bitcoin. It does not need any central authority. It does not need banks, and so it has the power even over guns and wars and any kind of calamity. It will be there to operate for everybody. You can use it anytime. The other thing is that one of the things that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, for that matter, have over banks is the fees, because it actually circumvents a lot of the fees that banks are actually putting on us when we're doing transactions, whether it's for business or for personal transactions. When you use cryptocurrencies, the fees are so minimal. So that's another one. The other thing is that the limited supply of Bitcoin, which has already been mentioned, but I just want to emphasize the limited supply of Bitcoin and the controlled supply of other cryptocurrencies. It does not devalue itself because of that. You can't just print it to your heart's content the way that we're printing our money now. And there's a lot more. The other thing is, for Bitcoin especially, is that it's really out there to fight inflation. That's the number one problem of everybody. No matter how hard you work, it's so difficult to outpace the inflation. So if you use Bitcoin, that's the one advantage that you have. The other thing is that, and this is one thing that we always do with My Digital Money, is that we're always there to educate people. For banking, they make it impossible almost to understand everything that's going on in any kind of transaction that you do with them. But for cryptocurrencies, if you use that, everything is very clear, everything is on the blockchain, everything is visible. Within reason, your personal identification will not be broadcasted and open up to the world. But everything is there, it's forever, and it's immutable. So the idea is that it won't be hacked, so nobody can just go in there and steal your funds, right? So it's immutable, it's there forever. So those are just some of the advantages, and all the educational materials that you will ever need, we always provide it in My Digital Money. We have a YouTube channel, we have a newsletter, and we have a phone support that's always there. If you have any questions about how cryptocurrencies work, we'll always be there to answer your questions.
Okay. Well stated. Thank you so much for that. And so this question is for Yana. She's from Switzerland, and so we want to be able to see if you can be able to share with us, Yana, the savings that Switzerland individuals may save versus the type of money exchange that you all already offer in your country. What are some of the, okay, so take, for instance, let me break it down a little bit better, I guess. Take, for instance, like Mexico, I think their money value is worth $10 or something, worth 10 to our 1 or something like that. So what is the worth value in Switzerland versus the United States in regards to Bitcoin?
Well, it's a great question. So actually, it's not that different compared to what previous panelists have represented. I do see like 3 main use cases of Bitcoins and other liquid cryptocurrencies. First is indeed inflation protection, especially in countries that are prone to inflation, such as some Latin American countries and some countries in Africa and, some other parts of the world, especially after COVID. So this is like one of the most important use cases. Another use case would be an alternative asset class, because let's say in Switzerland or in Europe, euro or Swiss franc, they're pretty stable. So inflation is there, but it's not maybe as dramatic as, in some other countries. However, the interest rates are negative, and a lot of people don't have other good options to invest or allocate a portion of their earnings that has, to an asset that has a bigger upside potential. And cryptocurrencies could be one of these possibilities, because yes, Bitcoin is volatile, it can go down, but it can also go up. And a lot of people find it interesting for them to have this, asset as a part of their portfolio. So investment opportunities is another use case. And last but not least is actually using cryptocurrencies as a way to make cross-border payments, because the fees and the friction and the timing of the execution is significantly less. If you think about it, in many countries, let's say you are in Latin America or you are in Africa and you want to buy a container of electronics from China or whatever, typically you would have to first buy USD and go to the US bank and, pay some commissions there and wait for a couple of weeks. So the total cost of transaction could be 10 to 15%. For small businesses, it's a lot. It could make or break their business, in fact, and when they can do settlements for international trade with Bitcoins in minutes, it's a big advantage for their business. So those are kind of the main, I would say, use cases for how people use cryptocurrencies. Last but not least, it's up and coming, and it has its pros and cons. Would be doing fundraising with cryptocurrencies. This is a case where actually a new cryptocurrency is created because a project wants to create a community and raise some funds by selling their native original new cryptocurrency to the people who potentially believe in the project. It's like a Kickstarter, but on the blockchain, so to speak. So those would be the cases.
Okay, great. So back in America, this question is for Amy. So as we all know, Americans are preparing for their taxes. Some have already received their taxes, filed their taxes, and what have you. So Bitwave does offer that type of service in digital coin exchange. So take us a little bit, share with us a little bit, Amy, as to how Americans can be able to benefit, and what are a couple of steps that you all use to be able to file taxes in the Bitcoin world for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, of course, my advice is pay your taxes. Don't try to do anything shady. Come on now. There is a checkbox on the form to asking you if you've transacted in digital assets, and if you have, come on, be honest, say you have. It's really, people get, I think, very, very worried about digital asset taxes. And it can be hard to track if you're doing a lot of movement, if you're really moving assets from one exchange to another, from one type of cryptocurrency, like if you're going from Bitcoin to ETH to Solana back to Bitcoin. So I would recommend keeping really, really good records. Certainly my software helps you do that. It helps you track in the software solution solution of the cost basis, so the price that you exchanged U.S. dollar for Bitcoin, what that is, that's called the cost basis. You want to have a fair market cost basis at the time of acquisition of the asset. You have to keep that number, so you have to know what Bitcoin was worth when you bought it. So then when you sell it a few months later, same as gains and losses in any other asset. If it's more, if you made money in that time, if you bought Bitcoin at 35 and now it's at 40, you made $5,000, you need to report that on your taxes. And if you held it for less than a year, that's your short-term capital gains there. So I would recommend keeping really good records of the movements of your U.S. dollar into digital assets, between different types of digital assets, and coming back out of digital assets, because that's, it's important to have it documented, have the prices well laid out so that you can hand that over to your tax preparer and they can calculate it. So keeping really good records, being very communicative with your tax preparer on what you did, and having the documents to show it so that you can accurately get to the taxes that you owed. It's not tax advice. My only tax advice is to talk to a tax professional about it if you are confused. There are a lot of resources online as well that you can utilize to help guide you.
Okay, great. So Fairlane, this question is for you. So, of course, we've already learned that we can be able to do bookkeeping with a Bitcoin. So how resourceful and helpful is this when it comes to human resource? Okay, so could a human resource manager use this as a tool in a corporation as a payment strategy back to its employees or stakeholders?
There are, in fact, a lot of talents out there that are already requesting that they get paid in Bitcoin. And I believe that this is one of the best investment strategies that they can come up with. If employees, right now, the executive order of Biden just came out yesterday, and it will take another 180 days for everybody to assess how the country is actually going to officially use Bitcoin. But as a prerogative on certain companies, they can actually, the employee can request that they be paid on Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, with Bitcoin. But right now, it will still be under study by the government whether we can roll it out as an official offering for everybody else. But if a company offers it, I suggest that you do it, request that you get paid in Bitcoin. And the other thing that you can actually do is, instead of just, of course, everyone has a retirement fund, right? You have a 401k, you have an IRA. One of the things that you can do is open a crypto IRA. And you can enjoy tax benefits with that. You can, how fast Bitcoin grew over the past 10 years. Just 5 years ago, it was priced like $500, and now it's at $40,000. If you open a crypto IRA, specifically a crypto Roth IRA, you don't need to pay taxes on your capital gains. Of course, I would suggest, as has already been mentioned, do consult your lawyer and your tax preparer and your accountant. But that's just something that the country offers. If you get a Roth IRA and put some cryptocurrency in there, you do not have to pay capital gains. But yes, I do hope that after the executive order, after everything is rolled out, this will become like an ordinary official offer that all employees can enjoy. It's so liquid. It's so easy. If you have the right exchange, if you have the right process with you, it's so easy to liquidate. So you don't have to liquidate anything into cash that you don't need to spend immediately. So the rest of the time, your money is just earning interest. You just have a compound interest.
Okay. So this question is for Yana. Okay, so do you see more trading of Bitcoin in Switzerland? They have already shared, Amy as well as Fairlane have shared a little bit about Bitcoin and the popularity that it holds in the United States. So do you see a lot of trading of Bitcoin in Switzerland?
Yes, the trend of what we call crypto adoption is continuing. Even like 3-5 years ago, it was estimated that about 3 to 5, maybe 7% of the population in Europe owned or ever owned cryptocurrencies. Now the assessment is up to 20%. So it's definitely picking up. Where we see more and more interest is actually businesses. So trading by professional traders, venture funds, professional investors, they allocate a portion of their budget into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as an alternative asset class, partially because there is volatility, and these people, they love trading the volatility because it helps them potentially make more money. And also another trend that I'm seeing, and I believe US has the same experience, a lot of traditional financial institutions that previously never offered cryptocurrencies, like in the US it would be PayPal or Venmo, now offer an option for their users to allocate part of their balances within these apps, within these services, into Bitcoins and a number of other more liquid cryptocurrencies. And I believe this is a trend that is also going to continue.
Okay. So thank you so much for that response. So this question is back to Amy. And so, Amy, you shared with us at the top of the show that there's perhaps going to be a limitation. I'm pretty sure, that's normal, especially when something comes out new. It's not going to always last forever, 60, 80 years down the road. So what is the option when when a customer comes to Bitwave and they say, well, we want to invest. We want to pour into what your company offers in regards to digital money. So how do you, and I know you stated that you don't track it, but how will the consumer be able to retrieve their investments, perhaps after the digital funds go out, after it's, because, we know, and we're not talking about Martha Stewart, but, after some things happened some years ago with Martha Stewart, who I love too, I watch her cooking show and what have you, but of course, by her pulling out her investments too early, it caused some issues. So we're trying to get all of the eggs and meat and potatoes out to the audience and to the public sector so they can be able to understand what to do and what not to do. So how would an investor be able to retrieve all of their funds, or do they just allow their funds to stay with Bitwave, or will they be able to cash in their investments afterwards, perhaps maybe after the coin stops transferring or stop being created or made?
Yeah. So first of all, I say I love Martha Stewart too, and I actually don't know much about her case or what happened. I don't actually know what happened there, but I still like her. And so basically, I did mention at the top of the show that Bitcoin, the way the contract is written is that there will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence. But I think that a lot of people don't realize is that you can fractionalize a Bitcoin. Like, you don't have to buy one whole Bitcoin. It actually is broken up into a lot of different pieces, which people call sats or satoshis. And so you can enter into the Bitcoin market at whatever price you're able to invest or want to invest. You don't have to go in at the whole, $40K or $35K or $60K or whatever the price of Bitcoin is. You don't have to buy a whole one at once. And so even when you're not able to mine any more Bitcoin, that doesn't mean Bitcoin is going away. It just means that the circulation supply that's there is going to be the maximum. And so it'll still be used, or still could be used. It's not going to stop being used just because no new Bitcoin are being mined. And, as far as bringing digital assets in, bringing your U.S. dollars into digital assets and back off, that's called, on-ramp or off-ramp. And you would go to most people would either go to like a custodial provider, they would go to some like an OTC desk, or if they're doing something, small and personal, they would go to a cryptocurrency exchange. There are a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges out there. One like Coinbase is a publicly traded company here in the U.S., so it's the biggest and probably the most well-known, but there are certainly a handful of other very large, fairly reputable, or I would say reputable, never been hacked kind of large exchanges that people could go to both purchase digital assets. Those exchanges all follow, AML, KYC, like know your customer protocols. You move your money into it. You do whatever you want to do with digital assets, and then you can take it back off and move it back to your regular bank account. And I see where Bitwave sits in this whole process is that we're a tool for bookkeepers, for accountants, for in-house operations folks to be able to track all of that, so they know where their money is moving through that process. So my software reports on and helps you do the accounting and bookkeeping for that whole digital asset movement process, as opposed to actually being we're not a money exchanger or anything like that. So if you need reports or to do kind of, point-in-time balance snapshots of your holdings on a day-to-day basis, or, help prepare, have information that you would need to prepare your tax forms, reporting out on gains and losses, things like that. That's what my software does.
Okay. Awesome. So this question is for Fairlane. It's a question. It's not something where you get a statistic from NASDAQ or anything like that, because I'm thinking, if people have a brilliant mind to come up with something like digital money, and what have you, I'm pretty sure there's going to be something else to offer Americans or global individuals around the world before Bitcoin even runs out. So in your terms or your opinion, where do you see this in the next 5 years? Because it may not run out in 2025 or what have you. People still may be investing, because that's all individuals are talking about. I had someone on the show back here last month. They had wrote a book about Bitcoin. and so people are really into this. I'm serious. And so I think the better we get a more understanding of it, people will, they will cling to it, just like, Linus on Snoopy or Peanuts with his blanket. People are going to cling to it. So in your opinion, where do you think this will be in the next 5 years?
Well, Bitcoin just got started. It's just getting started. And in the next 5 years, it's going to dramatically change the global financial system. And it has already started. The mere fact, all the limited supply, that's very good for Bitcoin itself. But the more powerful effect is the way that it's changing the way that we're doing business, the way that it's forcing central, like banks and the government, the way they're the way Bitcoin is forcing them to change the financial system, how to manage our businesses, and how to take care of us, Americans in general. So in the next 5 years, I think there's a lot of policies that will change. It has already started banking. As we've already said, JP Morgan has already announced they're taking out a lot of their fees. They're lowering a lot of their fees. Now I think Wyoming has already started accepting Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as payment for taxes. People are sending aid to other countries using cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, circumventing a lot of banks. And so this will force the banking system to rethink how they're doing business, how they're treating us, small investors, those that are just saving money for our future and for our retirement. It's also going to inspire the government to be better, just to rethink everything, so that we're not working like a horse and we're still not catching up to inflation. So Bitcoin is going to empower everybody to retire with a lot of money in their pockets, because even if you just buy one Bitcoin now, I can guarantee that in the long term, maybe not in the short term because it's of its volatile nature, but in the long term, Bitcoin and a lot of other cryptocurrencies are going to go up while the US dollar will go down. So that's another thing that we offer in My Digital Money. We really are here for those that want to secure their retirement using cryptocurrencies. And as I've said, we need to take advantage. It's all legal. Crypto Roth IRA is legal. You put money in there. You don't have to pay taxes on your capital gains. Do consult your tax preparer, your accountants, and your lawyer. But it's a great way to secure your investment. So, yeah, in the next 5 years, I'm so excited. I hope that the Gen Zers power this up. They get on board. They start supporting it because, as you know, it's the young people that's really forcing the older generation to rethink how they're running business in this. And we'll be here if anything, even if you want to just ask questions, you can call My Digital Money, go to our website, visit our YouTube channel.
I absolutely agree. Just to kind of share a few minutes in regards to a story that I received, and I'm pretty sure that it's true. People don't usually come to us or the broadcast with fabricated stories, but I think it was an individual. She was in Africa, and she was not able to catch some sort of transportation. I don't know if it was by train or flight or what have you, through the money that they were using in that country. And here comes someone submitting her travel expenses through Bitcoin, and bam, there it goes right there. She was able to make that transport to this other portal. So I really do feel that it's something that's going to be like a connection, and where people can be able to have a little bit more access versus, as you stated, we got all these fees going on, we got all of these, and I feel that's what's going to really affect the bank. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. As I said, that similar to the story of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, where one friend actually said, I really need to get out of Ukraine, but banks are closed. What am I going to do? And there you go. Bitcoin, in a matter of seconds, he got it, and he was able. So if that was true, that friend that sent Bitcoin actually saved, together with Bitcoin, saved a life. So that's how powerful it is. And I think that's why it's scaring a lot of banks. It's scaring the government, because now they're realizing, oh, okay, we don't have hold over people's money anymore. And there's also talks about, Russia actually using Bitcoin to circumvent the sanctions that the international community is putting on them. And that executive order by Biden, I think that weeks of the Ukraine and the Russia crisis. I think I could almost hear in my ear somebody walking up to the Oval Office saying, hey, Russia is going to use Bitcoin to circumvent the sanction. And that's what's inspiring. I hope what the government does is to use the power of Bitcoin to our advantage. I hope it realizes that if we can harness this technology, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, it's going to help America. So I understand the policies. We need the policies for sure. We need protection for our investors, but we also need to harness this technology to our advantage more than anything else.
It's going to flatten the banks. It's going to flatten them just like pancakes, and that's the reason why right now they're panicking. They're doing everything they can to be able to, which is going to be the next question, and this is going to be for, and I'm coming back to you, Jan, okay, because we got another broadcast that's coming up, and I'm trying to get all of this information in here for the listeners. So this is going to be to Amy. So can a investor be able to have both? Can they have American dollars, and can they have the Bitcoin at the same time?
Absolutely, you can have both, and I think that there's space for everyone. You can have both, and I think that another really interesting part of the Biden's executive order was the emphasis and kind of urgency placed on a CBDC, and we haven't touched on that at all on this broadcast. But a CBDC is a central bank digital currency. So something your listeners should be aware of is that there could be a day in the not too distant future where the U.S. government itself actually issues a digital asset. It issues its own cryptocurrency that we can use as like a digital dollar. So absolutely, you can have U.S. dollars, you can have Bitcoin, you can have Ethereum, you can have all these. There's so many other blockchains out there, Solana. There's a whole ecosystem and world of digital assets. And I find that Bitcoin or Ethereum tend to be the first ones that people learn about, that they hear about. But for a lot of folks, once they kind of open up Pandora's box and learn about digital assets and learn about all the things we've been talking about here today, their potential to help people in countries with high inflation, or their potential, to disintermediate the banks and the high fees and everything that the banks do that are not consumer friendly, they get excited about it and they start diving in not only to Bitcoin, but all of the other side chains, and there are a lot of really great projects out there that have interesting and real life use cases. And so I would say yes, you can have US dollars, you can have Bitcoin and ETH and some other digital assets, and then one day, not in the too far future, you might actually have a digital dollar or a US based CBDC. So a lot of exciting stuff. Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be cool? I don't know. There are some people have some private. I know. Isn't that crazy? Some people do have some privacy concerns about that, because if you think about it, we touched earlier, but everything in cryptocurrencies, it's all based on blockchain technology. And so blockchain is this distributed ledger. A blockchain basically makes all of the transactions on the blockchain very public. So you have your wallet, you have your private keys, you have your wallet, and people might not necessarily know whose wallet is whose, but everybody on the blockchain can see the other movements. So when other people are writing to the blockchain and they're moving money back and forth, those transactions are actually published publicly. And so if you think about a U.S. digital dollar, it is really exciting, because it would mean like instant transfers. You could get your payroll, like I think we touched on that earlier. You could get your payroll really easily, distributed to you in real time, even on the blockchain. But if it's controlled by the government, they would have a lot of access to people's personal spending and their personal finance. So privacy activists are concerned about the reach of a central bank digital currency. I think that overall the net benefits of having a digital dollar, I think they'll be great, but those privacy concerns are legitimate. But exciting times, a lot of cool stuff coming out.
I think what it is, and real quickly, this question is for Fairlane. I want to make a statement real quick. I got to get off of here, but how can this be productive for your larger organizations, such as churches? And because you have Christian leaders now, they are. I think I was on a Zoom presentation where this Christian leader had a large body of parishioners and what have you, and now they are teaching and training their members. They're talking to them. They're not training them. They're talking to them about Bitcoin, and perhaps they may not. And that would be probably another opportunity for you all, for all three of you, Switzerland as well as America, where you can be able to go and speak to larger groups or smaller groups about it. But I know that this Christian leader had brought it up on their Christian broadcast online in regards to Bitcoin and what have you. And so sometimes people may be afraid. That's the reason why sometimes individuals are so negative. But I feel, too, that the Christian sector also, they want it, too, but they just don't know the fundamentals and variables that go along with that. So what would you say to, larger or even smaller organizations of how to be able to get the information in regards to that, in which I'm going to let you all share all of your information in just a few minutes. But, just to kind of take the fear from that audience as well.
Yeah, the number one thing, the biggest advantage if churches or other nonprofit organizations, that the one advantage, if they ever use Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, is the fact that the value actually appreciates. If they accept donations in cash, that goes down. As we all know, just this morning it was announced that our inflation is actually at its highest, 7.9, I think. So you get $100, that's going to devalue 7.9% the next day. So, but if you go cryptocurrencies,
Wow.
if you get donations using cryptocurrencies, that if you invest it the right way, it's going to go up eventually. So that's the biggest advantage. Second is that if they're providing assistance, there are a lot of charity organizations around the world that churches are actually working with. If you use cryptocurrencies, you don't need banks. If you want to help somebody in Ukraine or in Africa or in Asia, any part of the world, you can have the money in the same minute. That's how fast it is. And you don't need to pay all of those high fees. Every penny that you're donating actually goes to the cause that you're supporting. So those are the three biggest advantages. And the first thing that they really need to do is first consult their lawyers, second is consult their accountants and tax preparers. So those first two things. And then after that, in terms of knowledge, there's a lot out there. You go to YouTube, you go to Google. I'm sure that somebody in that church would know something about how to get them started. There's a lot of exchanges out there. There are two ways that they can go about it. They can actually quote unquote physically possess their cryptocurrencies, having their own wallet where they actually have the wallet with them, or they can go online, which is what My Digital Money is. So you can actually transact. You can invest in cryptocurrencies online. The advantage of My Digital Money is that we actually do it both ways. So we have a cold wallet, which is the hard drive. So it's much more secure than a hot wallet, because a hot wallet is online, so it's connected online, so it's more prone to hacking. So I would encourage all churches, all non-profit organizations to actually use cryptocurrencies in their transactions and to accept donations.
Okay, awesome. We're out of time, so we're going to start with Yana. So, of course, with our shows, we always allow the audience and listeners to be able to follow our guests so they can learn a little bit more about them. They can be able to connect with them, connect with the books that they have published. So we're going to start with Yana. We're going to go around and let everyone share how the audience can be able to find them on social media platforms. You can also share any books that you have published and any upcoming appearances, public speaking appearances, TEDx appearances that you may be sponsoring on your website. So we're going to start with Yana, and so she can be able to share how the audience can be able to connect with her.
Thank you so much, Diana, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you also for my fellow panelists. So the easiest way to find me probably is to follow my own podcast, which is called Compliance That Makes Sense. So wherever you are listening to this podcast, type into the search Compliance That Makes Sense if you would like to know more about fintech and crypto compliance, and you will find my podcast. That's probably the easiest way because you are already listening to podcasts, right? And my company name is competitivecompliance.com. So I help startups in the space of fintech and crypto and services that move other people's money and funds and crypto funds to figure out what kind of licenses they need, what kind of regulatory solutions they may need, and how to structure their business in the most legitimate and also lean and agile way. So that's another place how to find me, competitivecompliance.com. Those are my main platforms, and I'm Yana Afanasieva on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Absolutely. So, again, my company, Bitwave, is a platform for accountants, tax professionals, and operations folks to be able to handle digital asset, bookkeeping, accounting, tax tracking. You can find us online at www.bitwave.io. That's BITWAVE.io. We're on Twitter at Bitwave Platform, and you can also email info@bitwave.io to send me an email directly.
Okay, great. Fairlane?
You can find us on mydigitalmoney.com. That's mydigitalmoney.com. We actually have a free crypto investment guide. It's very comprehensive. If you don't want to talk to anybody, you're intimidated by anything, and you just want to get your feet wet, start by downloading our free guide. Or you can also open a Play Money account, mydigitalmoney.com. So you can actually invest in the real market using Play Money. That is just to get you comfortable trading, get used to the actual trading strategies, try out different trading strategies that without the risk, but with all the knowledge that you can get. So just visit us, mydigitalmoney.com.
Okay, listeners, we have learned so much from these experts on today in regards to Bitcoin, and then you can be able to make your decision of transitioning, or you can be able to have both American money and Switzerland money, and then also Bitcoin as well. So we thank you all so much for being our guests and being able to share a lot of opportunity for the listeners in regards to Bitcoin and to kind of take the ease off Americans and those that are in Switzerland about this impact that we are embarking upon as far as money exchange. So follow us over to our next segment, and it's going to be on Zoom, everybody. We'll have filmmaker and director, and she's from the BBC World of the UK, and we thank everyone for tuning with us on this show on today. So everyone have a great day. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Women Who Rock Investigates, where we uncover the latest stories and topics for our listeners and viewers. Some of our media content may be sensitive to our audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.